We do have a quorum. I'd like to take a moment just to welcome any new members of the board. If you're new, would you identify yourself and say hello?
I'm the only one.
We have one new person, I think she might.
Turn your mic on, please.
You can't hear me, I'm pretty loud. Miss Newens is here today, but I think she stepped out for a minute.
We'll get a chance.
Here she comes.
We have somebody who could, sir.
I'm Councilman Greg McLemore from the huge city of Franklin, Virginia. I've had the privilege of being the senior councilman on our council after 12-year tenure. But I was here once, but it's good to be back here amongst the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission, amongst all the illustrious, esteemed people.
Welcome, sir. Ms. Newens, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I am on my first term on city council, and I have not learned the appropriate time to run to the restroom in the meeting. So thank you for allowing me to introduce myself. And my name is Amanda Newens. It's my first term. I'm an attorney in practice, and I look forward to serving the city in any capacity.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. Thank you for being here. Mr. Crum, do we have any others? No?
I believe that's all of our other appointees were at their first meeting last month. So I believe that's everybody, but one last call. Mr. Chairman, back to you.
Okay, thank you. So next we have a special presentation from Gabriella Ovaleri, the Elizabeth River Project. Welcome. If you'd like to come on up, we'll love to hear all about what you're going to share with us.
Good afternoon, all. I'm pleased to be the opening act. I'm Gabriella Olivieri, and I work with the Riverstar Business Program at Elizabeth River Project. Just a bit about the organization. The Elizabeth River Project is a nonprofit organization working to restore the health of the Elizabeth River. And the Riverstar Business Program is one of the ways that we do that. It's a free and voluntary program. Usually we come out to the sites and we make recommendations, and in some cases we're able to provide resources such as native plants and grants. Now there are 3 levels in the program. There's commitment level, which is usually the entry-level program where facilities either reduce pollution or increase pollution prevention or create and restore wildlife habitat. The next level is achievement level, where facilities achieve pollution prevention and wildlife habitat. The top level is the model level, which is for facilities that are recognized as a community leader in environmental stewardship and achieve exceptional efforts in pollution prevention and wildlife habitat. Each year, we host the Riverstar Business Recognition Awards. This is an event where we recognize facilities entering or advancing the program or increasing their efforts. This year, we're happy to recognize HRPDC for advancing to achievement level. So for pollution prevention, the district coordinates environmental education, including Ask HR Green, as well as regional planning efforts for sea level rise, transportation, and water resources. Meanwhile, staff are adding more LED lighting and conducting litter cleanups at the site in Chesapeake. Also for wildlife habitat, the Regional Planning Office partnered with us to create 200 linear feet of buffer with native pollinator plants. Who can guess which picture is a reminder to always include goose exclusion? It looks like a buffet to them. I'm pleased to call up Andrew and Chris to accept this award. Congratulations.
If we could pause 1 second, I'd love to have our PDC chair and vice chair join me, please. You guys can get a little Mr. Chairman, if I may, first, I'd really like to thank Gabriella and the Elizabeth River Project for that recognition. But really importantly, Andrew and Chris, thank you for what you do so much. I'm so happy and we're so proud of you to be recognized. And there's a lot of people sitting in the back of the room that know that they've been involved in this as well. So I just want to thank the staff, and very gratifying to see that type of recognition. So congratulations, guys.
And if you haven't seen it, you ought to peek out there, up back. It really looks nice, much better than it did. So thank you all for the effort, and Gabriella, thank you for the recognition. Takes us now to agenda item 3, which is approval, modification of the agenda. I would ask there's a motion.
Move approval.
Second, Bobby Dyer.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion on that? All in favor? Okay, thank you. Takes us now to item number 4, public comments. I don't believe we have any submitted comments.
No received public comments. I do want to ask if there's anyone who would like to address the commission today. Seeing none, Mr. Chairman, back to you, sir.
Okay. Well, let me kick it back to you. Next agenda item is the executive director's report.
Yes, sir. So my monthly report's included for your review. There are a couple things I'd like to highlight there. First, you'll recall that this commission appointed a regional housing committee to work on a regional housing assessment. That HRPDC Housing Committee held its first meeting. Very proud that we had approximately 12 representatives of this commission meet. Very good exchange of information and ideas to start us off. The group has agreed to connect this housing conversation with public transportation. We're going to be holding a joint meeting with our Regional Transit Advisory Panel on March the 14th. And then probably be looking to schedule another meeting after that of the committee and to get a report back to this commission on next steps for moving forward. So I want to thank our housing team, Shanita and Deidre, as well as all the commission members that participated in that first meeting. So we have a lot of work to do, but we're off to a very good start. Also wanted to mention a couple of other items. Obviously, we're in General Assembly. We've had a number of opportunities to present your regional legislative priorities to the Hampton Roads Caucus, to even the General Assembly's outdoor caucus on walking and biking trails, and with other regions to a variety of General Assembly members addressing all the issues within your regional legislative agenda. So been very pleased with how some of those things are being received. As we know, we continue to monitor budget amendments and bills as we continue through the session. Wanted to mention that two good news, bad news type of thing. So let's start with getting the bad news, if you will, out of the way first. So I just wanted to ask John Harbin if he could stand momentarily, and I promised him this would be brief, but I really feel the need to say a few comments. So John has been a regional planner here at the HRPDC. He's led efforts such as our regional economic development site preparation. He's led efforts like our regional solid waste management planning. For those of you in Suffolk, Southampton, and Isle of Wight, you know he's led our body broadband grant application, and working with you as that broadband networks gets built out. So a great opportunity for John. John will be moving on to the city of Chesapeake. Moving back, yes, thank you, Ms. Ritter. And we're really happy for him, and we're really happy for the city. But John, I just would be remiss if I just didn't take a moment and thank you for everything that you've done for this commission and this region. And I know you're going to do great things for Chesapeake. So well done, John. Thank you.
Congratulations, John and Chesapeake, I guess, for the hire.
Now, if I may, just a few words. I'm sorry to be lengthy
That's
today,
okay.
but a lot to report. So good news, last month you heard me talk about Quan McLaurin, who is going to be starting as our new Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Liaison and Title VI Administrator. Quan began with us February 1st, and I asked Quan if he wouldn't mind introducing himself to you all today. So Quan?
All right. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure and a joy to be here. As Bob mentioned, my name is Quan McLaurin. I'm our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Liaison, and also our Title VI Administrator for the HRTPO and HRPDC. It's just been so amazing joining this wonderful group of professionals who are so passionate and so intentional in their work and who are trying to just better our communities for all of us. So I look forward to this work, and I look forward to collaborating with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Quan. In perfect timing, we were able to bring Quan on board with us February the 1st. Back in 2020 and 2021, our state and federal partners completed a Title VI review of both the TPO and the PDC. We received the results of that review this past Tuesday evening. And what Quan and I will be doing is working together. This is going to be very helpful in terms of the things we need to do in terms of recommendations and corrective actions. And that's going to allow us to come back to you at your April 20th meeting and give you a report on the things that we'll be doing as we move forward. So Quan's already at work on some of these items, but we'll look forward to rolling up our sleeves on that. So, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have for you today.
Good. Well, thank you, Quan, for joining us. I know you're joining a great team of folks and will be a valuable contributor to that team. So thank you for being with us. Next is the Community Advisory Committee, Mr. Gaduldig Gatrosky. I hope I said it right.
Yes, sir.
All right. Close enough. Story of my life.
Good afternoon. The agenda contains the highlights of what we did last week. I want to thank Mayor Tuck for his warm welcome to Hampton, which is where we met, and the American Theater for hosting our meeting. On a personal note, if I may, because I don't think this should go unremarked, the Elizabeth River Project gave a tremendous gift to my city of Portsmouth. What had been a repository for used, unloved materials, they've turned into a garden spot. It is a multi-use facility. There's a small playground. There are walking trails. You can bring your dog into the park to walk the trails with you, bird watching, kayaking. So this unloved bit of ground has become a very well-loved part of my city, thanks to their efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Takes us now to agenda item 7.
Yes, consent agenda fairly straightforward this month. Our meeting minutes, our transcribed public comments, and treasurer's report. Mr. Chairman, I'd ask for a motion, second, and action to approve that consent agenda today.
Second.
So it's Keaton and Ross Hammond. So any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, thank you. Next is the item agenda number 8, Good Jobs Challenge Grant. We have Sean Avery here today with the Hampton Roads Workforce Council. Mr. Avery, welcome.
Thank you for having me here today. It's good to see many friends around the table. Some of my board members are also around the table. I'm excited to talk to you today about some great new opportunities that have landed at the Hampton Roads Workforce Council and how we're moving forward to help meet the workforce needs in our region. So just a reminder, if you don't remember, I'm with the Hampton Roads Workforce Council. We're your regional workforce development organization that represents all 15 cities and counties in Hampton Roads. And our job is to make sure we've got the talent in the region to be successful. We do this through various different programs. You're probably familiar with all of them. Our Veterans Center, our internship and mentorship programs through Next Gen, our Campus 757, which is retaining our talent with our colleges, our Virginia Career Work Centers, which are where job seekers can go to get connected with the employment opportunities. But the one I'm going to talk about today is really our maritime and our talent pipeline initiative. So think of workforce development as the here and now, trying to solve the issues of our business community right here and now. When we talk talent, we're talking about developing the systems in the pipeline so that we've got the systems in place for years to come to make sure that we're meeting the current needs of our employers as well as the future needs of our economic development prospects and new businesses coming to town. So about 3 years ago, we got a Go Virginia grant of about $99,000. So remember that number when I get to the end of this presentation to start to look at how to set up a talent division in our organization. We were able to bring on a few staff members that are solely focused on developing strategies, working with employers to identify what their current and future workforce needs are going to be, and identifying strategies to meet those needs. We developed what we call our targeted talent pipeline initiative, and our first industry that we focused on was the maritime industry. I don't think I need to tell anybody around this room that the water is the lifeblood of Hampton Roads. Everything associated with the water really helps drive a lot of what we do, from the shipbuilding, ship repair, to the ports, to logistics, to the offshore wind coming, to bridges and tunnels and everything else associated with that. So it was a no-brainer for us that was the area we really needed to focus on for this first part. So part of talent pipeline management, it's a methodology that was established by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce that looks at collaboratives, bringing together partners, identifying really what the needs are of the business industry, then analyzing all of the educational outputs that we have in the region. So looking at our K-12 system, looking at our community college, four-year institution, proprietary schools, you name it, anything, apprenticeship, anything that has the ability to help the employers meet their needs. And then we identify what those gaps are and put solutions in place to meet those gaps. And so we took all that talent pipeline and we customized it to our region. We brought on, again, some additional staff support. We've embedded this in our workforce system, and now we've been executing it through the maritime industry. And where we are right now is, so I probably don't need to tell you these stats either, but we have a serious workforce need in the maritime industry. Both now, we've got about 10,000 openings in the maritime industry right now, and by 2030, we're going to have about 30,000 openings. That's if we do nothing. If we just sit on our hands and we don't do nothing. The good news is we've got a lot of momentum going now to meet those and fill those needs. And these are the 6 major industries. There's a lot of other ones, smaller version ones that we can be talking about, like management and accounting, and we're dealing with those as well. But these are the ones we really started focusing on in our efforts. And I'll give these slides to Bob, and he can share too, so you'll have these stats. We got these numbers. I always love to tell this story. If any of you around the room, I'm sure the city managers will know, working with McKinsey is an expensive proposition. They actually did a 6-week study for us for free to help us identify all this effort, help us to develop an organizational structure around it, and then really put some meat to what we're doing around this maritime. It just got completed, so these numbers are fresh off the computer. Just got these numbers about a month ago. So we got the number of individuals we need. So we take that information and then we look at our training capacity in our region. And this is where it gets interesting. So let's say we know we need 1,700 welders in a year. It will take all of our training capacity working at full speed. It will take them 2 years to produce what we need in 1 year. So this just shows you the capacity. Electricians, we're almost there. We're close to it. But coding, if we need coders, 936 coders, it would take our training capacity 9.4 years to meet that training need. So this is the information we need to start to work with our training programs to increase those capacity, or identify programs that may no longer be in use, and let's start focusing on these different efforts. So the good news is our $99,000 has led to some great investments in this region. And I have to give Bob Crum and his staff, Greg Grutendorf, and the partners here at the Planning Commission, a lot of credit. If it wasn't for them working on the comprehensive economic development plan for the region and working with all the economic development departments and Hampton Roads Alliance, we would not be able to get some of these investments. It was key to that. First investment that we got to help solve this problem, we got something we called Hampton Roads Strong, and it's around skilled trades, rapid employment, on-ramp for growth. We got $1 million from the governor last year to do a pilot that's going on right now to train 200 individuals. We're getting ready to complete that. Highly successful program. So successful, it led to a $2.5 million investment by the General Assembly to continue this program beyond starting July 1st. What it does is it's a maritime training program in partnership with the industry. It's an entry-level program. We pay for all the training. We also pay for support mechanisms like childcare, transportation. We also pay incentives for the people to go through the training program. So successful that the city of Norfolk, and I don't know if I saw anybody from Norfolk here, but oh, sorry, sorry. Thank you. It gave us another $1.5 million to expand it to Norfolk, where we're going to do an additional 200 individuals into which we're calling Norfolk Strong. Again, all this continued to lead from initial $99,000 investment. This is the big one, though. This is what Bob really wanted me to talk to you about. It led to us getting an $11 million grant called the Good Jobs Challenge Grant. We were one of 32 in the nation out of 504 that applied for this grant. We were one of 32 that got it. We are focusing on the maritime, the blue-green economy. If you all remember, maybe Bob presented on this, that we were applying for a Build Back Better grant about a year ago. Unfortunately, we weren't one selected. This was really the workforce side of that Build Back Better project, that we were able to take a lot of that information from that program and build out this grant opportunity. So what is it going to do? It's actually going to allow us to build the system around the workforce development, bring together all the partners in the region to align their curriculum, to have us all on the same page when it comes to the maritime industry from the K-12 system. They're going to be looking at the same curriculum. We're going to be going down into the middle school doing career exploration type programs. We're going to be working on talent attraction, both internally in the region, but externally. We're going to be looking at, again, talent development. That's what we do all the time. Talent retention activity. How do we retain the talent, both at the employer site, but also within our region? And then job creation. That is a unique one. That's actually working with our HBCUs and developing individuals who traditionally would not go in these industries in management roles, getting them involved in management activities within these maritime industries. We've got 11,000 commitments to hire from the industry. We're going to be able to train 950 job seekers through the community college, through apprenticeship, through a number of different mechanisms. We've got over 60 partners committed to it. And the big part that really put us above and beyond when it came to the other proposals is we're going to be hiring 17 maritime specific recruiters that are going to be on our staff, that are going to be out in the community recruiting in underrepresented and under-resourced communities, in your communities, to get them connected to these employment opportunities and to these educational opportunities. I hope I never see those maritime people. They should be in your community. They should be working in your community centers and your YMCAs and your schools, really working with your community to make sure we're meeting your needs. The other big part I can't go back, but I think I went too far. Okay, yeah, the other part is it actually expands our footprint from our traditional 15 localities. We're going to go up into the Eastern Shore to help bring individuals down here and work also with the Eastern Shore. We're also going to go down into 12 counties in northeastern North Carolina, working with 2 community colleges down there and also training individuals up. We're going to have recruiters down there to recruit for our industries as well. So again, this is putting together this workforce training system. It's aligning our regional workforce solutions, attracting new talent, training and developing individuals for these open positions, retaining and existing our talent by upskilling them in their workforce needs, and creating new jobs through increased capacity for small business. It's not done yet. So these are all the partners that are helping us with the system development. Again, the Planning Commission, we couldn't do this without you. Talent attraction, our Veterans Center, the Urban League is a big partner in this. Talent development, we've got all of our community colleges, 6 community colleges, including the ones in Northeastern North Carolina, the universities, the K-12 systems. We got talent retention again, and then job creation, working with our chambers of commerce and industry commitments, which is important because we don't want to put anybody through training unless they're committed to the job. So they will be part of this effort as we go forward. So this is just a map to see where all the training partners are, and they've all committed to be part of this system and working together and aligning together. And this is just the founding partners. We're going to continue to grow this as we move forward. It's already needs to be updated as we've added the Northern Neck Technical Center and a few others that are going to be added to this as well. So that $99,000 has led to $17 million, which includes the ones I've talked about, but some Go Virginia grants. We got a Department of Labor grant to just work with women and getting women involved in these efforts. We've got Dominion Energy has given us $450,000 to buy equipment in our training capacity. And then, as I mentioned, the city of Norfolk, thank you. And the Keenan Trust is doing stipends for individuals. So this is in hand for the organization. Where we're going now is the Navy is working with us to give us an additional $29 million to support this effort. $9 million of it has already been committed, letter in hand, for the Virginia Peninsula Community College. They're going to increase their maritime training facility. Camp Community College is going to be building a new maritime center in Suffolk. The Virginia Beach Career and Technical Education Center is going to be doubling their welding capacity. And then the last one is New Horizons Regional Education Center on the peninsula is also going to be doubling their capacity. Yes, sir.
So are you going to provide vocational opportunities at the high school for these,
Absolutely.
These kids to get into this kind of trade? Because I know when I was at the shipyard, welders and electricians were the rare commodities we tried to find. It was hard to find those people.
Absolutely.
So are you going to provide funding to the schools to provide instructors and resources to help them start vocational programs? Most kids don't. Some kids don't want to go to college; they just rather learn a trade.
I don't have a slide in here. Some of them saw it yesterday on my board. They did a part of the McKinsey study was they looked at they took 100 students on average 100 students that graduate from high school. 76 of them actually said they would be interested in getting into career and technical type of education. They didn't say skilled trades, but as they went down to skilled trades, it went to like 50 or something like that. And then as it started going down, it got to at the end of that 100, only one person went into the maritime industry because they didn't know about it or there wasn't those opportunities within their school division. Yes, sir.
One follow-up question beyond that is, if you were to find a welder instructor, do they have to be college educated welders or retirees? I mean, does the Virginia state require them to be college educated?
Not for workforce development programming.
Not for that.
For credit, unfortunately, they do have to have, I think it's a master's degree for credit, but most of our programs are workforce development. They're non-credit programs, so they don't have to have that. Honestly, if we could get a retired welder who just wants to come back and work part-time, that's what the schools are looking
And the state's not going to put any strings attached if they have to have some kind of educational.
Not unless it's credit. Yeah. But to your point, so those 4 projects I just mentioned are committed. There's letters of intent. They're working on those. The other 6 projects are in the budget. We're just working on the details, but part of it's going to be planning grants for the school divisions to increase that training capacity there. K-12 outreach will be doing more in-school type activities, working to get the K-12 system interested in these programs. Go Tech is a middle school career exploration program, which it's not actual welding, it's actually virtual welding in the middle school. So get them interested in it and then move into the high schools. A lot of money for curriculum alignments. We're all working on the same page. A lot of marketing funds. And then we're going to be doing veterans recruitment and skill bridge type programs as well through our Veterans Employment Center. So additional $29 million. So $99,000 at the beginning. We're approaching close to $50 million. And this is only our tier 1 projects. We have tier 2 projects that we're working with the General Assembly now, and other funding sources. One of them is actually to offset the cost of instructor wages. So somebody who, let's say they're a welder, they can make so much more welding, working in industry than being an instructor. So we asked for money to offset the difference between how much their salary would be at the school versus how much they would make in the industry, so that they could get into the industry. That'd be incentive. Unfortunately, that proposal didn't get funded in this session, but we're still going to hammer away at trying to get that to happen. So, and last but not least, so we're taking this full model and we're replicating it into healthcare. You'd be happy about that one. We just got a Go Virginia grant, or it's in the final stages of $250,000 to go ahead and move into data analytics, cyber, IT, unmanned systems, and we're going to be working on the same pipeline for those efforts. So that's our story.
Mr. Avery, great presentation, and congratulations.
Thank
Quite
you.
a return on investment on
Thank you.
$99,000.
Yeah, I agree.
Over $50 million. I believe, Mr. Brown, you had a question.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Sean, a great presentation and great
Thank you.
work is being done. Quick question about resourced persons. How do you define those persons, and are you working with the human services organizations to identify who might be under-resourced and getting them in these types of programs? What's the definition there?
Absolutely. Honestly, we kept it as broad as possible. The good thing about having multiple funding streams, and you know this from your past work, if they're not eligible for our traditional Workforce Investment Act funds, which is a little bit limited, then we have the funds that have less strings attached to it. So honestly, if it's somebody who's interested in the job and they're willing to go to the training, we have resources that we can pretty much take care of anybody. So I don't have a specific number for you because we have so much resources where we can work with it, pretty much any individual that's interested.
Mr. Chair, follow-up question, please. The other question is, are you working with returning citizens?
Yes. So that will be one of the populations. There's multiple inputs. And again, I don't have the slide on here for sake of time. There's multiple inputs into this system, veterans, K-12 system. One of them is returning citizens. The thing with returning citizens, we do have to be very honest with them up front that some of the job opportunities are not going to be available for them in the maritime industry just because of the security measures at the bases and things. But there's so many other opportunities out there that we just need to make sure that we're upfront with them and help them with as they're moving forward that pathway. So yes, that would definitely be one of the actually, it's going to be a big population we'll be working with.
I'm glad to see that the Navy's participating, has some skin in the game.
It was a hard one. It was a pulling some teeth, but yeah, they're
shipbuilding overhaul is a lost art.
Yeah.
When you're paying these young folks $20, $21 an hour to start,
yeah,
they can go build a car for $75 an hour.
Right.
There's a big difference there. And if
Yeah.
the Navy is focused on welders and electricians and pipe fitters, it's to their benefit that these young people want to pursue a career. And you can make a decent living doing this kind of work.
It's a national security issue, and honestly, that's what we pushed it for. I mean, you got to build these subs. You can't build subs at home, and you can't work from home to do that. So we need some skilled trade people to do these things. So,
Ms. Ross Hammond.
I wanted to say this is really amazing what
Thank
you're doing. We have like Renaissance Academy,
Mhm.
who they're looking at welding.
Yep.
So for what you've done with 99,000 to bring back a big ROI, I think we need to give them a round of applause.
thank you.
Mayor Dyer.
Okay, thank you. And Sean, it's a privilege to be working with you. But also, I want to give not only a shout out to Sean, but to Bob Crum too. As you all know, we've been working as leaders on a task force on youth violence that's going on. And not too long ago, our city managers did a marvelous study on the social needs to address violence in our communities. And Donnie Tuck and I have been working, side by side, along with a lot of other people, trying to do some things. And in Virginia Beach, we're in a process that I mentioned this a couple of times, starting the HOPE initiative, helping our people excel. And one of the interventions that we took as a result of the study done by our committee was to address mental health, physical health, affordable housing, transportation. But I've got in touch with Sean, a large part of what our youth need. Not all youth are destined to college. So if we can get these folks into training programs, and if you want to give a youth hope, give them a job that starts paying $75,000 a year,
Exactly.
where they can afford a home and have a family and do things. But I just want to say, Sean, as soon as I mentioned that to you, we were on board. And, I mentioned also to the board of directors at a, previous meeting, we do have a workforce crisis in all of our cities. And the point is, if we can fix two problems or situations at once and help out our community, maybe cut down on crime, but also serve our workforce needs by giving them a pipeline where cross referrals, we might be able to, get an at-risk youth person and refer them into the workforce situation. But once again, we're hoping that, what we're trying to do spreads to all the communities. But I'll tell you what, if you want to give youth hope, get them a great job, and that applies to our entire region. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Dyer. Following up on Mr. Dyer's and Mr. Bazzini's comments about bringing youth in the job, what can we do as from our positions as council members and board of supervisors to help you get into the local high schools, middle schools, kind of clear that pathway, because those are great opportunities.
Sure. I wish I could say we're having issues getting in there, but we're really not. We've got great partnerships already with the school divisions. We've got individual programs going on throughout the community colleges throughout the region are doing great things. Once we get these recruiters online, that's probably where we really want to know from your localities, where do you think the best place are for those recruiters to be in your communities? Where are they going to have the most impact? Doesn't mean they have to be in the same place every day, but identify the neighborhoods you think would be good for us to be in, where we have the best hope. Give me opportunities to come up there and say this same presentation to your citizens as well.
I'm sure that if you talk to the school superintendent of Gloucester County, we've started a automotive vocational program and a carpentry program. But if you can bring in programs where we teach these young kids to weld and to pipe fit and so on, it would go a long way towards them deciding, do I want to go to college or do I want to make $75,000 years, as Mayor Dyer just said? Because for me, when I was working at the shipyard after 35 years, our hardest goal was to find electricians and find welders, because none of the high schools were providing that kind of pipeline to us so that we can, so we can build our ships and do the things.
Yeah, unfortunately, they stopped doing that when we were all in high school. They had the shop classes and everything. They stopped a lot of that, but we're seeing that turn around a little bit. And for Gloucester, I will say we've been talking with President Kennedy at Rappahannock about getting together with the school divisions to see if there's some dual enrollment type courses we can do in the interim until we can build some of that out.
Mr. Chairman, one of the things I would like to say in support of Mr. Avery, you asked the question, what is it that we can do as leaders? I think one of the most important things that we can do, being for me in the city of Portsmouth, which is a blue collar town, which has a blue collar history, and the shipyard made many people successful and families successful in our town while serving our national interest. Each of us has a role and a responsibility to be the cheerleaders. So as you go forward as an elected leader or someone in your community, the best thing that I believe that we can do as leaders is to continue to send that message in how we act and how we speak and talk. If we continue to send the message, they say that repetition is the key to adult learning. So if we continue to say it and talk about it and act it, I believe folks will follow. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir, Mr. Sean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sean, great presentation. Thank you. I was wondering if alongside some of the efforts that you're going into the schools, That also includes outreach to parents to help reframe some of the conversations around workforce.
That's a great question. Some of the marketing dollars that we talked about the 3 million in marketing, will be targeted to parents as well as guidance counselors. I mean, they're kind of some of the ones that are talking to the students for the most time. But yes, absolutely, and not just in your senior year. We need to get it into the middle schools and throughout your track within the high schools. So absolutely.
Mr. Chair, just one
Yes,
more
sir.
question, please, before Sean has to exit. Provision for daycare and transportation. Any money there?
Yes, absolutely. It's throughout the system. We have foundation funds, we have private sector funds that are, as well as part of the Good Jobs Challenge Grant and the Hampton Roads Strong and Norfolk Strong. All of them have funding for childcare transportation. Honestly, right now, childcare is probably the biggest workforce issue out there. And it's not that, it's just a lack of childcare spaces right now. There's just not enough of them. But the good news is, and the cost is exorbitant right now. But yes, we have resources to support that.
Mr. Keaton?
I just want to mention, I know, Sean, you're familiar with Isle of Wight schools. We built an $8 million CTE program a few years ago, and it does have welding. And we had a partnership with Lee Bear. They provide a lot of equipment for welding. So we have welders that are walking out of high school going right to work in the industry. And it's a big commitment, but a lot of schools now are having signing ceremonies for kids who are graduating into CTE programs like they have for athlete signing programs. So they're showing them, getting a job with different companies. So it is a different focus. And like I said, these kids are walking into jobs and making really good money.
Well, and I appreciate those comments. For all too long, I've been commenting in Williamsburg that we spend a lot of effort making sure that kids are college ready. And I think what we're hearing around the room is there's a commitment to the labor force, workforce, and the jobs that are available in the maritime industries. And so I applaud you all for your efforts to make it known in your communities that this type of opportunity exists for children or young people. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
If I may just conclude. So first off, Sean, thank you. Incredible work happening at the Workforce Council. I just wanted to make a quick comment to sort of let set in what Sean described. And you saw that map, but there were 500 applications in this country for this program. 32 were granted, and Hampton Roads was one of them. And Mayor Glover, to your point about being the messengers, we hear a lot about, is there regional cooperation in Hampton Roads? I can tell you, if you just look at Sean's chart there of those slides of his partners that were brought together, if regionalism wasn't in place in Hampton Roads, it would have been vetted out through this process. Yeah. I know how many hours he spent doing this. It was an intensive review process. And for our region to, due to Sean and his organization's leadership, to come out on the winning side is nothing short of incredible. So, Sean, congratulations, and just thanks for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that takes us to agenda item 9, unmanned and autonomous systems. We have today Mr. Bowles and Mr. Colas, I guess. So welcome.
So as our speakers come up to the podium, this is something that Keith Nichols and John Harbin from our team have been supporting from a regional perspective. But really an emerging opportunity that we wanted to get in front of the commission today. I'm going to turn it over to our experts, but I think this is a great story about opportunity and how we can be prepared as a region. So thank you for being here.
Oh, thank y'all for the opportunity to present today. So as you said, we're going to talk mostly about autonomous systems. Sean, I was really happy to see unmanned as one of your forward items on there, but wanted to give you a couple slides, just a little background about the organization that I'm leading. It's the Virginia Institute for Spaceflight and Autonomy. We call it VISA, not the credit card, not the travel documents. It's funny, and we're part of Old Dominion University, so I get a lot of emails from various students talking about where's my visa and who needs to sign what. And unfortunately, I can't help them. But we were stood up as part of ODU's budget in the 2020, put in by the General Assembly in the 2020 state budget. I came on board in October 2019, I guess. I retired after 39 years at NASA Langley Research Center. Last 5 years, I was the center director there. So good to see a lot of my my friends from that job. We worked very closely with the community. And I was actually a resident of Suffolk for those 40 years. There you go. I was a resident in Northern Suffolk for 40 years while I worked over in Hampton, and great partnership with Mayor Tuck there. So what do we do? So we're located on the Eastern Shore, and I was glad to see, Sean, that you had the Eastern Shore highlighted on your map. So lots of opportunities, but we're located on the Eastern Shore. That's really just me. The rest of my team, you see the pictures up there, and we're kind of virtual. My deputy, John Costulis, actually lives down in the Outer Banks. So glad to see the Outer Banks on your slide as well. And John's going to give the bulk of this presentation. But okay, what do we do? So we were put in the budget really to charted to grow this tremendous aerospace ecosystem we have in the region, including the Eastern Shore. Just tremendous facilities and tremendous opportunities. And how we're going to do that, and what's our vision, is to really to create this environment of economic development, workforce development, and grow that entrepreneurial ecosystem in aerospace across both space flight and autonomous systems. I just call it aerospace usually when I'm talking about it, but aerospace in the largest sense of the word. So it cuts across maritime with autonomous systems, ground autonomous systems, and we actually do some cool things with space as well, and I'll touch on those. Why our region should be a leader in space flight and autonomy. I'm preaching to the choir here. Obviously, y'all know all this. We have in our region 2 NASA facilities, NASA Langley over in Hampton, Virginia, and then NASA Wallops over on the Eastern Shore. And located at NASA Wallops and run by the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport and Virginia Space, only one of 4 places in the United States that you can launch to orbit. And one of those is in the state of Virginia right now. So a lot of other states are trying to get that capability. You see a lot of states talking about their spaceports. Only 4 places in the US you can go all the way to orbit, and one of those is at Wallops. Got a new launch vehicle manufacturing facility coming on the Eastern Shore, Rocket Lab, which just had their first launch just about 3 weeks ago from Wallops. They're going to build a new rocket, a bigger rocket than the one they're launching right now from Wallops, and that's going to be about 250 manufacturing jobs, and that's a lot. If you're familiar with the Eastern Shore, it's a big area, but not a lot of people. So 250 high-tech manufacturing jobs is really good, and I think that opportunity to bring more launch vehicle providers over there to the Eastern Shore. And once you do that, you got the launch pad, you got the people building the rockets, then you're going to kind of see, okay, if I'm putting a payload on the rocket, I want to be close there too. So you're going to see satellite manufacturers coming in and that whole supply chain. So, and that's going to extend over here into Hampton Roads as well. So really excited about the opportunities. We have a strong public and private educational system, the highest density of DoD services in the nation. You just look at the DoD footprint. And again, I'm preaching to the choir. And especially when it comes to autonomous systems, how you operate those systems both commercially and in this very complicated DoD environment is a challenge. But as we heard from various people, and John Costulis, my deputy, is going to talk to you more about this. If you can do it here, you can pretty much do it anywhere. We have a very complicated system. And getting maritime vehicles, air vehicles, both commercial and military, and I think we can solve it. And I think there are tremendous opportunities. And DoD is very interested in autonomous systems, and we've got a lot of work going on with them. And like I said, John will tell you about that. We're also an industry leader in aerial and maritime autonomous systems. We have the Commonwealth's largest multimodal cargo and transportation system. If you look at it here between the port and the rail, airplanes, again, we have tremendous opportunity. And I think the opportunity for growth in the unmanned autonomous systems arena is just really unlimited. We did get a Go Virginia grant. And again, John's going to tell you about that. To understand this, the Planning District Commission is actually a partner with us in that grant, as well as HRPDC, which sits in the building here. They're pulling together the military piece of that for us, and we also have the Hampton Roads Alliance is a partner with that grant for us as well. And so the other kind of cool thing, we do have a very unique location along the eastern seaboard. If you kind of look at a map of kind of the whole eastern seaboard there, we're kind of right in the middle, so you can go a lot of different places from the Hampton Roads area. And as we get into what we call advanced air mobility and all the potential outcomes of that, I think our geographic location along the eastern seaboard is really nice. So like I said, John Kostoulis, my deputy, is going to talk to you about the autonomous systems work we're doing. But as the name says, the first S in Visa is space flight. So I'm really just going to quickly tell you about a little bit of work we're doing in space. One of our great partners, Virginia Space, who operates the spaceport over at Wallops. We talked to them starting about 1.5 years ago. I said, let's get a CubeSat program going. Let's get educational organizations involved. Let's look at opportunities to get new companies in doing low-cost technology demonstration flights. So we got with them. We're going to be the mission kind of planning and formulation lead for them. Our first opportunity was coming up on NG-19. NG-19 is the Northrop Grumman 19th mission to service the International Space Station. That was going to launch, well, it is going to launch in April of this year. We had 2 payloads on that mission. One was a combination of ODU and the U.S. Coast Guard Academy, and we've got a tremendous partnership there. The other one was Virginia Tech. Northrop Grumman, their Antares rocket. We were going to launch on a second stage, so it drops you off at a pretty low orbit, but it does give you like 5 days in orbit. So great for student payloads and those kind of things. And you can actually do some science and technology demonstrations up there. I will tell you just, when was it? Yeah, 2 days ago, we found out from Northrop Grumman that they had some payload capacity problems. So they're not going to be able to launch us on NG-19 in April. But our team up at the U.S. Coast Guard Academy has found another launch for us out at Vandenberg in October this year. So we're going to take those 2 payloads we're developing. We're going to launch them with a company called Firefly, which is a new entrant into the launch vehicle business. They're going to launch out of Vandenberg probably November this year. So we're going to get our payloads on that. They're doing that for us for free. And I think there's an opportunity also to work and get Firefly eventually launching up from Wallops too. So really excited about that. Tremendous opportunities in space. I'm kind of a space geek. I kind of grew up doing space for a long time. As Mayor Tuck has heard me say numerous times, when I was center director, I used to have the coolest job on the planet. I used to say that every time I gave a talk about what I was doing at NASA Langley. I've got the second coolest job now. I get to go and do all the same kind of things, but help the state of the Commonwealth and the Eastern Shore. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my deputy, John Kostoulis, and he's going to tell you about unmanned systems. That's the forward button.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks, Dave. John Kostoulis. Dave and I worked together out at NASA Langley for 35 years. I worked for Dave probably the last 10 years of my career as his director for workforce. So hearing Sean's presentation today really hit home for me because we had to transform the center the last 5 years of my career working directly with Dave and move into new capabilities and new areas. And Dave chartered me to do that. And we started that process. In 2017, I retired. Old Dominion brought me on and we received the funding that Dave spoke about. And I'm his lead for most of the projects you're seeing here. Don't worry about charts. You're going to get this chart and a couple other ones that you can send out to your folks. But take a step back for a second. In 1962-ish, George Jetson started. He had Zoom meetings. Okay, that was in 1962. They actually had Zoom meetings, right? What are we doing now? Zoom meetings. They had package deliveries to their house with autonomous systems. What are we doing now? Package deliveries to our house with autonomous systems. So this is happening, and it's happening fast. We're going to be moving people and cargo with autonomous systems within the next 5 to 7 to 10 years, somewhere in that time frame. And it's going to happen whether we plan for it or not. And this is our opportunity for us to plan for it. So we got a Go Virginia grant. I'll talk about it in just a minute. And HRPDC, Bob, his team here was very forward thinking and said, we need to get in front of this. Got John, Harbin, and Keith together, and they've reached out to the various communities here, localities, and have a community planning and transportation team. And we're doing some sponsorship for them. And we're beginning this kind of thinking so we can start planning. So we can do it to ourselves or have it done to us. And I'd rather plan as a region. We're having regional conversations, and I love that comment earlier. It's great to see some of the city planners come together and start thinking about this regionally. Harumpa is leading the other group on the military side, but I want to talk to you about advanced air mobility. Advanced air mobility is something that you're going to start hearing more about, and that's drones delivering packages to your house. It's regional air mobility, which is it's going to start out hybrid electric and manned or operated, pilot operated, but moving very quickly to fully autonomous. And that's regional air mobility. I'm talking 300 to 500 mile range, 1,500 to 2,000 pound capacity. That's not including the people. 6 to 10 people. So think of hops from, I don't know, the DC area to here, from here down south, and not having to go to a single airport, except for small, little regional airports. It's a new way of moving people. And all of these aircraft that you're going to see here from a regional air mobility perspective have a cargo variant. So they're going to be moving cargo the same way. So John and Keith were very forward in their thinking, and we have the Port of Virginia and some of the major cargo shippers on our team starting to think this way. They have already begun to think, but it's really nice to hear some of their thinking. And then also urban air mobility. And those are basically air taxis. Short haul, rooftop to rooftop around our region. Think about that, trying to operate together with the military. So hence why we had to involve the military in our planning. So that's kind of a big picture overview of advanced air mobility. One of the first things that Dave and I did in our thinking here was, because we saw the economic diversification plan that came out of Reinvent Hampton Roads, and one of them was the space of aerospace autonomous systems. So we asked the question is, well, what's our playbook? What's our strategic plan for our region? So the very first thing we did was we got a lot of folks that work for you, that work for the government together, and we coupled them with the lead from NASA Langley at the time for autonomy. She's now the lead for the agency level across the whole suite of NASA centers for autonomy. She worked with us for, Dave, I believe, what, 6 months, maybe 8? She worked for us, coalesced a group, bounced ideas off, thought of various different things, and what we tasked her to do is generate a playbook. We don't want a strategic plan. We want to play with specific plays on what to do for our region to grow us together in this space. So she developed, and that team developed this strategic playbook. You can download it from our website, but we'll make sure that you guys get a copy somehow. But there's our website at the bottom. It has everything. There's 17 plays in it, and it's growing every day. We're getting new things happening every day associated with this playbook. It is really a great tool for you to think about your locality and how it might fit into this playbook. So that has been kind of guiding us in what things we strategically pursue. Well, one of the first things was that we engaged the port, and I'm talking every user of the port, from the Coast Guard to the Port of Virginia to the military to emergency management response, everything you could think of, every user of the port. We got them together and said, how can we solve some of your workforce shortages, some of your critical threats, some of your pain points with autonomous systems? We conducted a workshop. We brought in industry secondarily, and then we worked with some state funders at VIPC to bring some money in to actually fund some demonstration projects on solving key search and rescue, bomb threats, emergency response, hazmat assessments, anything that was really challenging for them and the port. And we selected 5 Virginia-based companies, happens to be 4 from our region. And we've been having demonstration projects. We did a huge demonstration project of both an air, ground, and water-based autonomous system all linked together, showing how those systems functioning together could solve a problem that the emergency response, search and rescue community was having and the hazmat community was having. And that company demonstrated that project in mid-January, and we're going to have hopefully 4 more demonstrations over the next 3 months that will solve a lot of the problems technologically, and then we're going to have to work to get them operationally integrated. So that was an exciting project. We brought in about almost $250,000, funded those projects, and those will turn into, hopefully over the next 6 months to a year, operational autonomous systems for our port. We also worked with the city of Norfolk. One of the things we heard at that conference with industry and others and other emergency responders were, where do we test these things? We don't have any test capability. So we need test capability. Well, Bob Chirac happened to be at the workforce at that summit and said, you know, we're writing a proposal to repurpose and redo some of our boat ramps in the city of Norfolk. And they got a $394,000 grant to turn part of that boat ramp into an autonomous systems test bed and test location. And we have companies and other academia groups looking to come in and use that capability to test their autonomous systems. We're going to manage it for a whole $1. We're going to run it and operate it for a whole $1. It'll have floating docks. It'll have davits. It'll have areas where they can pull in their autonomous systems and work on them and redeploy it. And the Navy is interested as well because there's some companion operations they can do together. So we've been talking with them, and this is going to be a really neat opportunity. So when Bob took the bull by the horns on this one, we followed his lead, worked with them extensively over the last 6 months or a year, and that should be coming online in the next 9 months. So a lot of our local companies will be able to use that test capability there at Willoughby. This one has been 6 months in the making. We brought together Drone Up, Riverside, Tidewater Emergency Management Council, and of course, VIPC, our partners there. We have at the state level, we're partnered with them, working some of the things we're doing here across the Commonwealth, and also a part of their Commonwealth team. So we're staying connected to what other regions are doing, as well as some Commonwealth level initiatives. They're funding us to do some initial demonstrations. Riverside was having some troubles on the Eastern Shore. Staff shortages, they needed to have medical supplies delivered, and a lot of their staff were spending critical windshield time driving these packages out to rural areas. And the folks on Tangier Island had a 2-day latency time for information and medical packages coming in and to and from Tangier. Well, Drone Up said, hey, this is another business line for us. We think we can solve that problem. Riverside said, great, we'll invest some of our resources to see if we can figure this out. And we wrote a proposal, got a grant. This led to a DOT SMART grant at the federal level of almost $2 million. And we're going to hopefully get that awarded, be awarded that in the next 3 months. But we're going to do some pathfinding projects on the Eastern Shore to deliver medical packages to homebound patients, patients that have inequities that we could solve with this technology. And the other thing is Tidewater Emergency Management Council picked up on it and said, we can deliver defibrillators, Narcan, you name it, via this approach. So they're actively involved in this. Recently, Valley Health out in the Shenandoah Valley and Carilion up in the Appalachian region, Southwest Virginia, have been partnering with us. They decided that this is a solution for them as well. So they're hopefully going to be joining our team in the next 6 months or so. Because once we pathfind it here and show that we can do it here, our plan is to work across the Commonwealth. Drone Up sees a business opportunity for them. Riverside is on the applications lead. We're doing the project management things. And then the Tidewater Emergency Management Council will take it from an emergency management perspective. This is the main thing I wanted to talk to you about and how you guys can engage with us and help us. This was our first play in the playbook. And it is basically to take a look at our region as a whole and begin thinking about routes, corridors, application uses, things like that for autonomous systems. That's a notional picture, so don't get hung up with all the routes and corridors. But think about, we move goods and service and provide services and move people today. How would we might do that with a new capability that's coming online? We have Amazon, we have Walmart, huge FedEx, UPS distribution facilities, all here. We have a port. So cargo is coming in and out, people are coming through. Is there an opportunity for us to grow economically as well as create new jobs for this emerging industry? So we applied for a grant. We were awarded it. We've broken the team up and we hired some subject matter experts that are with us. They support the regional community and transportation planning group led by HRPDC. They support the Harumpha group, which is all represented by all the bases, the DoD bases and some other federal facility bases on that team. And we're meeting on average once every other month. And this activity has led to us beginning to think of, here's a lot of the applications that your communities can think about. And you're probably asking, well, should we actually be thinking about this, or is it just going to happen organically? Autonomous systems don't care where they operate. They're going to operate across these boundaries. They don't, when Drone Up's delivering a package, it might be going from wherever to wherever in our region. So it almost requires us to think regionally, especially with managing all that traffic, because that traffic has to operate consistently with the military. So having understood that, what we did was we've actually engaged at the Pentagon level, Office of Secretary of Defense, who's responsible for unmanned traffic, what I'll call unmanned systems traffic management. And we're going to be meeting with them tomorrow. There's an opportunity to leverage some DoD investments here to help us regionally be able to manage this aerial traffic, the water traffic, and other things that will be coming from these unmanned systems. So it was really cool to see some of the thinking coming from our teams. John, correct me if I'm wrong, but the first meeting was a lot like a learning opportunity. They felt like the members of that group, a lot of your community planners, comp planners, felt like they were drinking from a fire hose. Seriously. And then they began thinking about it. And we had key questions for them to think about. And we kind of, moved them along the lines. And then all of a sudden the light bulbs started going off. Well, we need to talk to this person. We need to have that person. We need to do this. We need to do that. It was encouraging to hear, I forgot the gentleman, is it Chris from Norfolk? Chris from Norfolk said, we're doing our comp planning 20 years out. We've got to be thinking about this. So they began thinking about it. So it has been a breath of fresh air. I think people are starting to think on the team about policies, regulations, other kinds of things, because it's going to touch those things. It's going to have to touch those things for these things to operate the way they should be. One thing I'd like to point out here is we've kind of all agreed on that team now. It doesn't have the blessing of the mayors and the city managers, but the feeling is we should be thinking from a regional approach on managing the traffic. Instead of each city doing their own thing or each locality doing their own thing, we ought to think of a regional approach for unmanned traffic management. So that way, we're not doing something in each locality different and it not integrate together at the end. That's what we're worried about. And I think everybody is seeing the light there. So with that in mind, I've kind of sped through a lot here.
So with that, I know we've got some time for some questions. So
Yeah.
if you want to go to whatever your presentation is, I'm sure we got questions from
Cool.
the gang there. And certainly one of the things I think we ought to talk about is how do we work together to navigate.
That's one of the last bullets on here. So that's perfect. So one of the key findings so far is we engage the DoD early. We're going to generate a consistent approach with what their thinking is. They were thinking really inside their fence line, but now they realize they have to think beyond their fence lines. We've identified Hampton Roads Executive Airport, which is right here off of 664, as a key node. They're right on the outside of restricted airspace, but think about how many people move through that area, how much cargo moves through that area. They're a prime location. So we engage them. They're often working some things consistent with some of our thinking. So this has been really helpful for them. And it's going to be very helpful from the region because they can connect in with the rail, the package delivery, moving people. We've identified the focus groups. And one of the asks that I have, and it's not much time, I would really appreciate it if you could get your community planner, whoever you think is the best person in your locality, to contact John. We did an initial reach out, but it's really hard to get that. They're all busy people. We get it. We're only asking for 2 to 4 hours a month. Is that about right, John? For participation. And this is the first step. We're going to have more opportunity to engage. And our goal is once we get this group up and running and get that initial input, we have to provide a report back to Reinvent Hampton Roads. We'd like to try to keep this group together long-term because it could be a very good way of communicating what's happening in the community. And have that be able to get filtered down as fast as possible. So contact John. Well, I guess it'll be Keith now. But anyway, myself or Keith, and we'll make sure that we get your folks included. So that is a way for you to help us.
All right, well, so.
And there's our contact information.
Great. So I think, do we have that information?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have any questions for Mr. Gentleman here? Yes, sir. Mr.
Yeah, I think the important thing out of this is the future is now. Speaking as a child of the 50s and 60s when the Jetsons were just a pipe dream. I remember a couple of years ago being at a meeting similar where they were talking about drone flights from Hampton to town center a couple of years ago. But once again, I think as we talk about workforce development, we got to play chess, not checkers. We got to think moves ahead. Because once again, as we confront the problems of workforce development, these are technologies that a lot of are even on the radar yet, and we have to get ready for them. So I'll limit my comments to that for now, but the future is now.
Thank you for those comments. Are there any others?
Ask a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So when you were speaking with the port, was there any discussion about transit between big and NIT and cargo and how that could be air unmanned?
They're beginning to start thinking that way. They're beginning to think of the right roles for trucks versus the right roles for these types of things versus rail versus other things. So they're beginning to think. They actually have a couple of pilot projects on the ground transportation side with Virginia Tech, which they have an awesome capability there. So they were right to partner with them, but they're beginning to start to think about that because that is going to be a challenge. It's always going to be a challenge.
Yes, one of our challenges is Hampton Boulevard and folks traversing that trucks from Norfolk International. and Norfolk Terminal to big. And so if we get them to think about that, we get trucks off the road.
Yep. And HRPDC has been awesome because they've been thinking about infrastructure needs right there in Bowers Hill area. And 58 and 664. So there it's, there's that type of infrastructure planning is critical right now.
Any other questions? All right, well, so I would encourage all your planners to reach out to these folks to help plan for the future, because as Mayor Dyer says, it's here. We need to be working on it. So thank you very much for your presentation.
What are weight limitations?
Weight limitations? Well, some of those vehicles will have 50, you can carry about 50 pounds, the small ones, but the larger ones can carry up to 2,000, 2,500 pounds, 5 or 6 people.
Okay.
So they can move a lot of cargo and they can move a lot of people. Yep.
Thank you, sir. Okay, next we have the 3-month tentative schedule. There is no meeting in March, but you can see the next meeting will be April 20th and then again on May 18th. So questions? Next, the Technical Advisory Committee meeting summaries, they're included. Meeting summaries of Ask HR Green subcommittees, directors of utilities committees. I guess they're all here in our packet. Mr. Crum, is that correct?
Yeah, yes, sir. All of your technical advisory staff meetings are included.
Okay. So then at the end of your package, you'll also see there's a letter that was signed by Mayor Glover and I supporting Senate Bill 1441 and House Bill 2444. Mr. Crum, do you want to mention anything about that?
This is a bill that our region has really leaned in on. It is an attempt to support the offshore wind industry by encouraging the products and services that would construct and support those wind turbines off our coast to be supported by Virginia products and services. And as Mayor Glover is very much aware and leading on, it really does set the stage that if we're going to be able to recruit a blade manufacturing facility to our city of Portsmouth that would benefit the entire region, it's one of the pieces of groundwork that we're laying to make us competitive in that regard. So I want to thank our chair and vice chair for signing that letter for us.
Is there any old business, new business?
No, sir, there is not.
Okay.
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
Just 2 quick follow-ups. I don't need the answer right now. One, last meeting, I asked for if the localities could provide on the violence issue, the drop off in the number of firearms confiscated since the enaction of the 2020 bills in the General Assembly. And secondarily, on the housing group, when I asked about that a long time ago, and I think this is great work, but can you let us know at the next meeting when you intend to bring in the private sector? Because I think the assessment is terrific, and I think we all know there's a need. The question is how to provide it, and should that always fall to government? And how do we work in partnerships? And because the hope was that there would be a paradigm developed that all the localities could use in the way they want to, amend it if they need to, but find a way for that partnership to come in and provide not only housing opportunities, but home ownership. And I missed that part of the assessment. And thirdly, even quicker, can you provide copies of the 2 presentations today that we can distribute to our members of council? Thank you.
Absolutely.
You'll be able to follow those.
Absolutely. And all those items, absolutely we can respond to.
All right, if there's no other old business, we stand adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.